we welcome you today. We have been waiting for this wonderful connection. And we say to you that we are in observation of your wonderful journey up until this point in time. And as we recognize you, as we recognize you, as we recognize you, as we recognize you, as we recognize you as the soul that you are, we say, welcome into your divine essence of who you are. And we welcome those that are being transparent. And as the transparency is being seen through the veils of the eyes, of the windows of the soul, there is a recognition that happens. And we, as the angelic beings of light that we are, who have once walked the earth planes, we say to you, as we are keeping Michelle's eyes closed right now, that there is a resonance in the sensation of our vibration that comes through.
So welcome to the Divine Love Ambassador podcast with your host, Mary Jo Halligan. Today, I have a very special lady from Nelson who I got to meet in person for the first time just a few days ago, Michelle Carpenter. Welcome to Divine Love Ambassador podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Mary Jo. It's been an absolute honor meeting you because we've been following each other, I think, on Facebook, and it's beautiful to just see all the messages that you've put out there and how real you are. And then to meet you in person was just spectacular. I was on such a high for it took me hours to go to sleep. I felt like we were like 3 stars out on the planets, like aligning, saving the world, talking just about everything that happens. And it was really just absolute pleasure. So thank you for having me and inviting me on your podcast. I'm so excited for you. Yeah.
So one thing you said there that I just want to pick up on is the real, being real, because that's one of the resonance I feel with you, is that you're really dedicated to that level of authenticity, of really showing up in your humanness and bringing in, of course, the wisdom of the council and all that you do, but really in a grounded, authentic way, which takes a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability. And I know you have a huge story and background to draw upon, and that you've walked your path. You haven't skipped any steps.
I hope I haven't skipped any steps. I'm like, Jesus, people, I'm done. Okay. For the first 50 years, I was like, and, do you remember playing hopscotch when you were a kid? Did you ever play hopscotch in Ireland? Like that, and sometimes you got to balance in one leg. And so, yes, I'm very much here to show up. And thank you. I never ever thought of myself for a very long time in terms of being brave or courageous. And then every now and again I get reminded, and I think, sure, yeah, the way I did that, I don't know how, I don't know why, but I just did, and for me, that's what I want to teach. I want people to know that the more it takes courage. It takes courage to do what you're doing. It takes bravery to step out of what we know is comfortable, and that could be emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. There's so much in terms of who we are as human beings, and it's something that I keep coming back to, is like building the bridge between being human and spiritual, because I don't know about you, but I've seen so much bypassing happening in the spiritual communities, and I kind of take the piss sometimes, because it's like, we have to be human, and I know that we are multidimensional, but shit, I don't know about you, but sometimes when we're in those moments of and the purging and the trauma or the emotions that we're working with, it feels hard, it feels tough, but we can get through it.
And I feel like, it's like this dedication. This is what I can feel in you. It's like this dedication as a soul, and I have it as well, to shine the light, to really shine the light and really acknowledge all the darkness, or what hasn't been acknowledged. So we're not going to bypass it. We're going to really hold it, because that's what the light can do. The light has that much, I say power, but you know what I mean? That's the impact. That's the potential. That's the reality. You know, once
Yes.
we recognize and we bring that, you know, or we bring the dark, it can be all held, it can all be welcomed home. That is the greater reality, the greater truth that I feel you're bringing, and I'm determined as well, in our own respective ways, and collectively, so that, yeah, as you said, the bridging the human day to day. How do we show up in these bodies, and embrace this awakening, self-realization journey, um magical beingness, and have this pathway storyline of the school of hard knocks, the earth school of hard knocks: duality, consciousness, separation. And that's what this podcast, Divine Love Ambassador, is really yeah, it's like really covering the whole bandwidth of, yes, Divine Love Ambassador. I know what it's taken for me just to create this podcast, all that had to come up to the surface that felt separate. And who do you think you are, even to claim yourself as Divine Love Ambassador? And now I want
Mm-hmm.
to bring and highlight and share communications and conversations, Divine Love Ambassador, what we're standing for, what we're grounding in these bodies. And you may not call it Divine Love Ambassador, Diamond Light, Council of Light, whatever it is, but it's that thing that it's just become realer,
Mm-hmm.
than the stories, than the separation, or
Mm-hmm.
can hold all of that. So before we go any further, I just want to read your incredible bio, just to give people a bit more of who Michelle is. So Michelle Carpenter is a medium, grief and trauma intuitive, and channel for the Council of Eight, angelic beings of light, and founder of Find Your Joy workshop. Michelle works deeply, activating your heart and soul, attuning and tuning into where your energy is being held within your body, mind, and spirit, creating expansion on all levels. I'll take a breath with that. I invite everybody to take a breath with that. Michelle creates a safe space for you to allow yourself to be vulnerable, letting go of any old emotions, including intergenerational and ancestral. Diving deep is where Michelle is a specialist, fine-tuning into the field of your body, mind, and spirit. As you open your heart consciousness, you become more tuned into the vibration of love, stepping more into your truth, more joyful and authentic self. Michelle uses breath, music, tonings, chants, and whistles, gently guiding your body to receive, shifting you into a different frequency. As a medium, Michelle connects to your loved ones passed on over into spirit. They give clear guidance in which she facilitates the messages for you. Michelle is the direct channel for the Council of Eight, angelic beings of light. They are here to guide humanity in uncertainty, sharing their tonings and tunings, sharing their love for us, and reminding us that we are one, pure consciousness. Michelle has studied different modalities: NLP, integrative quantum medicine, certified counseling skills, hospice volunteer, mycofascial unwinding, hatha yoga teacher, open to channel. So you can tell from that you're very broad and widely skilled and attuned. And of course, we do. I feel like, if you want to share some parts of your story, do. However, I want to suggest that people do go and check out the interviews you've done on other places where you've really gone into depth in your story. Highly recommend Next Level Soul. I want to
Mm-hmm.
congratulate you on
Thank you.
that. And over our conversation, I was letting you know that it's nearly had 200,000 views, and
Yeah.
really
Wow.
resonating with people, that message from the council. So it's just, yeah, it's so exciting that so many people are resonating, and just the expansion of your message and the expansion of Next Level Soul, and so many messages now that people, just reflective that so many people are ready to access this bigger picture, if you like, or this greater awareness of this expanding consciousness. So I guess what I'd like to jump back to is, I feel like actually just bringing it to the now moment of, what are you noticing is most alive in people, of what they're really looking for, requiring, the support with? What are you seeing is really kind of bubbling up through the surface of humanity right now?
A lot of it has to do with grief and grieving. And, I came to realize that, as you know, I've got my own podcast called Keeping It Real. And I interviewed this beautiful, beautiful soul who has been a nun in Thailand. And it was interesting because she's been guided to write a book, which she has already written, called Grieving, Suffering, Transition. Now, what I found fascinating was when I put it out there, I know we kind of, we want the messages from the Council of Eight. We want the enlightenment, and we want the goody stuff. But it's interesting because when I put the Council of Eight out there, I get a lot of people, watching. This, because it had grieving and suffering, a lot of people, whoever it was, doesn't matter, there weren't as many views. And that's exactly where I feel humanity is at, is that this ripple effect that we've gone through, this change that is happening for us, is where a lot of us are still perhaps in the suffering. And, just speaking to Sue, and this, like I say, she's just beautiful. She's so pure in her essence. And I've learned so much from this whole experience of even just, talking to her. But the grieving is real, and people do not know how to grieve, Mary Jo. I don't know if you've seen this in the work that you do, but I say this respectfully, is like people don't like to grieve, but that's part of the work. And what I love is how many people are coming into their own. So and grieving is different for every single human being. And it's allowing, when we allow ourselves to have the moment, whether it's listening to a song, showing up for a friend, or showing up for a partner or a loved one, or I recently lost my dog in December, and I wailed, I cried like I was dying. And I've had a few moments like that in my life, maybe far too many actually, that I think a few, but it's like, no, it's more than 4. And but I've had moments where my head feels like it's going to crack open, but my heart feels it's expanding. So do you see how there's the two differences that happen very similar in that moment of allowing? So I'm all about bring it. I'm all about, like you've mentioned in my bio, I'm about the deep dive. And people get scared of the deep dive. So many people want to know what's their purpose. And the purpose is, as you said, to bring us back into the present moment. What's happening now? And it's so easy for us to want to skip that step of not going in. And I just noticed that when we grieve, our lungs hold grief. A lot of coughing's happening, a lot of purging's happening for a lot of people. And I've just seen it in my own self and with my clients as well, because I'm always noticing that there's a reflection. I'm very much the kind of therapist is like, if I go through a week of clients who are frustrated, I'm like, okay, what are you showing me, universe? Oops, there we go. We got the balloons. I don't know how that happens, by the way. We might get fireworks later as well.
Technology is all connected. I love it. We're celebrating that year she gets it. Connection.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's messages of love in every single one of those balloons. But as you know, balloons go up, but they can also come down, and that's just a perfect way of looking at grief. It's just allowing the moment, but not sitting in the moment. I used to sit in the grieving for days. I used to sit in emotions.
I really want to invite you to swap out, if you could. For some reason, I'm just feeling guided, or just wanting to, it's just like words, that some words, it's like different words, like
yes.
They have like a heavy energy, yes. And so I think grieving, as you said, in the Western world, a lot of it, we're not, unless there's a funeral or unless there's something, it's like, as you said, we haven't been equipped for grieving, and I'm a big fan of grieving now, but like, I nearly want you to explain grieving without using the word grieving, just to give it more context, give it more, what is it actually? And I know you're using lungs and coughing and stuff like that, but like
it's loss. It's massive loss.
Yeah. So letting go, what was, would you say?
the word that comes to mind is unraveling. So
Unravel.
yes, letting
Okay.
go, unraveling.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you think of the word unraveling, it's like, it's kind of going in and bringing it up, and going in and bringing it up.
Yeah.
And the unraveling absolutely feels like in the moment that we're losing our shit. The head kicks in so quickly and goes, this, you
The
know, but the
confusion.
heart,
Yeah.
yes, but the heart saying, just feel,
Yeah.
just feel, just allow. So for me, it's the presence, being in the presence of the allowing, which brings so much courage. And I have been so fortunate in all these years of not only, you know, I continuously deep dive into my own self, because I like I say, I kind of look at reflections and without over analyzing, because I used to over analyze, like always had my Louise Hay little Bible. Okay, what does this mean? What is this about? And then how am I feeling? My husband would say, can you just calm down in a social environment, please, Michelle, because we don't need to know right now how you're feeling. So I was a bit intense in the beginning of my journey. But it takes the bravest of the brave to have the courage to allow the unraveling. So to give you an example, if you'd like an example, is especially when I have in-person clients or I do a lot of my work on Zoom, you know, you'll notice like the lip will start to quiver. I might play a song, I'll get guided to play a song, and then the lip will start to quiver. And you know what? In the moment of encouraging someone to just say, it's okay, I'm here right now, that gives them permission to just unravel or to let go.
Yeah.
And that's where the vulnerability, and it's really like a fine key that's, you know, like a vault, where you kind of unlocking the vault, and then you're like, we're going to go this way, and we're going to go that way. And then sometimes you get like, you get stuck and you're like, damn it, the vault isn't happening, like technology. And then we just got to allow it, and then it shifts, because in the body shifts, the body finds a different way of being. So again, it's so multi-leveled for me. And there's not one specific person. In 15 years of me doing this work, not once, Mary Jo, have I found somebody who grieves in the same way. And there's no comparison ever, ever for, I don't even know where I'm going with that, but there's no, we compare like, okay, but surely I'm done with the grieving. And it's like, no, just invite it in, have the moment. And then we're able to expand a lot more, because, you know, a lot of the times our bodies are just holding. And if you think of it, the cells are always holding, you know, and the cells are talking to one another, and they're talking, but they're holding. And that's where sometimes we might have pockets. And if we could just look at it as a little pocket and go, oh, hey, hi, pocket, there you are. Okay, what do I need? Okay, I need to breathe. And often it's allowing the moment to find an expression. And something I've come to realize in the last few weeks is it's the emotion that we attach to it, because we can get happy tears and we can get sad tears.
Yeah. The
You
story
know,
attached to it. Yeah.
the story. It's the attachment of the story. And again, that just shows how many people that, you know, it's, I always say to anybody, our heads are going 100 miles per hour. I mean, what's the science behind it? 60,000 thoughts a day. And could you imagine if we just, even if we take 20% of that and just say, okay, just bring it back. We'll come back into the present moment. How's the body feeling? Navigate the body. But we haven't been taught this. So many of us haven't been taught this.
Yeah.
But I feel that children are coming into the world quicker, because there's so many people that are finding the expression and that are wanting to do the work. They want to, I call it shift your shit. I feel like there's a workshop in that. Are you keen?
Find your joy, shift your shift.
Yeah, exactly. Look, same, but different.
Yeah. Well, that's what I got. That's what I actually wanted to share, or like, you know, just because I think that's such an important thing. in terms of like the re-education, as you said, people aren't necessarily familiar with grief, or, because of their upbringing or their generational, habits of controlling oneself. So as you say, comparing is just coming from that place of there's some ideas of how I need to behave or not behave, or what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And so the mind is trying to regulate the body instead of just trusting the feelings of the body and trusting the expression and the emotions of the body. But also, like, what and like, if people just realized that underneath those heavy emotions really is the joy, that it's underneath the anger, it's underneath the rage, it's underneath the grief, it's underneath the sadness. And it is only by unraveling and really feeling those energies into completion, and honoring our journey, because it is each one of us has walked our journey and gathered whatever experiences and gathered whatever love and gathered whatever, whatever is being time to let them go now, or to, bring it to conclusion, I guess. Like like grieving is so honoring, really
Mm-hmm.
honoring what was. And
Mm-hmm.
I certainly was never taught that. I certainly wasn't brought up with grief as something that we celebrate. It was just, it really was done. If somebody dies, then, there's some grieving there potentially, but not even very well done in that way either, like in New Zealand, I
Yes.
heard the Maoris, that whole culture has a better, a lot of these traditional cultures have they have a place for grieving, whereas in our Western culture, we just it's tucked over in a corner somewhere, or, behind closed doors, or, so one of the things I used to do in my retreat with tears, because I'd noticed that certain people in the room would hold their breath as well. So it's like
Yes.
people aren't used to being welcomed, what you said, you're giving them a welcome. And I think that's huge.
Mm.
To know that
Mm.
there's a place for emotions, there's a place, and that it's okay, and that even people are even, can handle emotions. Because I think all of these impressions can be picked up along the way, that my emotions are too much, or, so we've learned to stuff them, or contain them, or regulate them, or edit them, or, you know what I mean?
Or
So
delete
like,
them.
that's, or
Or
what?
delete them. Or delete them. Not allowed to have the expression of
Yeah,
the moment. So it's
but they
kind of
don't
like
but they don't really
delete.
delete, do they? It's
No,
like
that's the
sticker.
thing. Yeah. But it's like that, when you're like this
Press,
key's not
repress,
working.
repress, repress. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I just wanted to bring in that, like that the grief, really, on the other side of the grief is, if somebody isn't connected to pure joy, that the joy is on the other side of it. So yeah, could you talk to a little bit more about that, of, because that's the joy, but you can only go through it. It's only really diving deep into it. And I'm sure you must have this experience. I'd say the human is crying, and the heart is giggling, the being
Yes.
giggling, because in the tears is the joy of the
Yes.
of the release, of the expansion, of the insight, of the acceptance. There's just so much in there that can't be accessed until the shift your shit.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it was actually dancing. It was conscious dance that really showed me when going into a deep, deep anger, and then into fits of giggles and joy the other side, deep, deep grief and joy. And it was like, whoa,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And it's
that's
so quick. It can
when you
shift
really go
so
into it.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yes. It can shift so quickly. So
And
for me,
yet to avoid, we can be doing it for years and decades and
absolutely.
generations, and
Absolutely.
suffering because of the denial, the avoidance.
Absolutely. And, what comes to mind is my first, so I've been in my journey for 15 years, and my wake up call was my ex-husband having an affair. We had a little baby girl at the time. 9 years prior to that, before meeting him, my wake up call, according to what my guides have shown me, was I knocked over and killed a young girl. And I just suppressed it. I had a big cry like 3-4 days later. And then I was like, whoa, okay, let's get on with life again. And it's exactly everything that you're saying. I somehow wasn't taught, I wasn't allowed, I didn't give myself the space to allow the emotions to come up, because my head was always, you got to get on with it, you got to get on with it. But yet the body holds. You know, there's that beautiful book about the body keeps a score. And fast forward to us living in New Zealand. Oh, you got it. And fast forward to 2 years ago in August 20, where we 24, 23, 22. I decided to go and do a cold plunge in the ocean, and I completely disassociated out of my body. It was actually fascinating. And this is where, for me, it doesn't matter who you are. And I think some of the wonderful masterminds that are in the different communities have said the same, that there's this, and Gabor Mate is another guy who comes to mind, you know, there's always this deep diving, and we go into the processes of what we need to let go of. But going into the ocean, I was breathing, but I wasn't breathing the way that I have read about, and you know, and when you watch Wim Hof, and probably you have a huge amount of expertise around breathing, and I completely disassociated. I was completely out of my body, because the shock to the system was like, and I kind of was in that moment. But the unraveling that happened during the day was incredible. So I had a beautiful friend with me, and she's like, Mesh, just look at the full moon. And my husband was there, and I was just spaced out. I didn't know where I was. I could see everybody's lips quivering, and I remember thinking, what the hell am I doing? What is this about? Like, what? Who does this shit? Like watching the smoke come off the water kind of thing. And
Doesn't compute.
100%.
The survival brain, right? It's the
Yes.
body. Survival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the rest of the day, thank goodness, and this is how the universe has, and how I've shifted in working through a lot of the old, is that the universe had delivered this beautiful friend of mine, and then my husband. So the masculine and the feminine energy were there with me in the ocean. And my husband and I had years ago done a hypnobirthing course with our son when I was pregnant. So he's got a very soothing voice, and he came to me and he managed to bring me back into my body. But the unraveling that happened for the rest of the day was, my friend was very nourishing to me, and nurtured me. She was the presence that I needed in terms of, you know, being the mom. And because my husband then afterwards went into fix it mode, like, I've seen you, this has happened to you before when you gave birth to our son, and we got to fix this. And I'm like, you cannot fix me. There's nothing wrong with me. Just let me be. So I'm just explaining the difference of the unraveling and how it can show up. And obviously in the ocean, I cried, because my body then, when I came back, I just started to sob, and I was like, whew. And then the embarrassment hit. Because, what I forgot to mention was, oh my God, I have these moments. I was walking to the ocean. I was the last one, and I was just sensing everybody and watching everybody. But I knew inside of me something needed to shift, because when I go into my little girl, I go sort of into the back of the crowd, and I just become very small, and I observe everybody. So as I walked into the ocean, and everybody was going because of the cold, and there was a big group, and I just let out this real big lullaby, like, so I became known as the shouter or the screamer of the group. So that happened because I was only ankle deep, just by the way. And so I wasn't even freaking far into the ocean. I was like, this came out. And I was like, damn it. So the embarrassment came up, like, Michelle, shut it down. Because I could hear myself saying that. And then as I walked in, I went into that. So the survival mode was already happening, unbeknownst to me. But then the shock of the water, there's like, and then that's when I just left my body.
So because you mentioned about your inner child, because you did have some abuse in your childhood, do you think there was a connection there as well, of just that out of the body, you know?
Very much so. So this is what was so fascinating. Thank you for asking that, because, you know, I was sexually abused when I was at the age of 5. My dad was a Rhodesian soldier, so there was a lot of alcohol. He also came from a very abusive background. His father was an alcoholic. My mom was a very angry drunk, and my mom was a young mom. Plus all the fears that she had grown up with, because my mom's mom was in and out of institutions many times, addicted to tranquilizers, I believe. So this is the intergenerational that we were talking about, and the layers that we store. And the rest of the day when we came out, because now I'm like shivering, and then my friend and I started laughing jovially because there were tears in the ocean, and then all of a sudden we're like laughing and cackling like witches, and trying to get our clothes on, like being completely frozen. And I came home and I had a bath, and again, just having the water was very nourishing for me. And I sobbed and I cried and I cried, and I just kept hearing 5-year-old self, and then I bring my little 5-year-old self in, because I've had to forgive her on
Mhm.
so many different occasions for not knowing the difference of being sexually abused. And right now I can even feel this in as I'm talking about this, and I've spoken about this countless times. But when we're in tune with our bodies, I can feel that there's just another little, like a little tickle, like a, sort of a feather, and it's like, oh, there she is again.
Mm.
Oh, okay. So now I've got to just find her a space, and that's what the water does for
Feel
me in the
safe,
bath.
feel safe in the body, even in the midst of that kind of shock, and so that's the beauty of that cold water therapy, because you're retraining the body that it,
Yes,
that to have
yes,
that it's safe.
yes.
And with the
That's
breath,
exactly it. Yes, 100%. And
that little girl can feel safe, or those, you can stay basically, rather than have
yes,
the body, which is
yes.
the fail safe system, isn't it? Really, to
It's so incredible how we are
survival
manufactured.
system. Yeah.
It's incredible, and the survival, just to add another layer to that, is it's something that my husband, as South Africans, I don't know if you know much of the journey of a lot of us in the last sort of 20 to 25 years. There's a lot of crime that happens, and my fear had brought in quite a bit of crime, and my daughter was hijacked at the age of 3 with my father. I've had smash and grabs where I fought with a guy, and I was going to go get a gun, like I fought to grab my handbag, and he was going to break my finger. And so there's just been, we've had break-ins, we've had armed robbery. There's been just a lot where the nervous system, and it just becomes the norm. South Africans, we're just like, I can handle this, I can do this, but you're just in fight or flight, continuously scanning, scanning, scanning. And coming to New Zealand has definitely been a part of us both working with our PTSD, helping our nervous system to integrate. Because what I was going to share with you is, many years ago when we lived in South Africa, my husband, he had been affected by crime many times, but he used to say to people at barbecues, like, why don't you behave like that? Or why don't, if somebody was broken into, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? And I'd say to him, you cannot judge, because you never know what's going to happen in the moment of survival. Because you just don't, your limbic brain just kicks in, and some of us freeze, some of us run, some of us fight. And it's not right or wrong. It's just so incredibly ingrained in us. And it's actually quite fascinating how the body just knows. It just has a knowing, but yet we judge it. We judge that knowing. That was part of my experience in life, is again just helping that little 5-year-old, because she knew that something wasn't right, but yet I wasn't able to express it. I wasn't able to share what was going on with me because of being threatened. So when you've got that, I mean, there's one story which is it's quite an in-depth story of what he did to me. And I don't normalize sexual abuse in any way, true or form, because I've had many clients that have been sexually abused, and they're like, oh, but like it's okay, he was a teenager. I'm like, no, you're normalizing it. And so do you see how there's just so many levels to who we are? And the best way that I describe it to anybody is, think of every cell. We've got trillions of cells, and every cell has a memory, because every cell is communicating with every cell. And our heart cells, are formulating right now, are doing their thing, but we're not having to sit here and go, Mary Jo, you forgot to tell your heart to beat.
Mhm.
Damn it. What about your lungs? We've got to speak to those cells, and there's so many layers of who we are as individuals, and we are miraculous. We are incredible. And I think that when we can look at ourselves in the miracles that we are, allowing those past timelines, those past stories to unfold and unravel as we need to, that for me is where we start to find the joy. And I've had some momentous moments where I didn't know until I got divorced that my sexual abuse, I knew it was wrong when I became a teenager, because my anger towards him started to come out. He was very involved in my life and my parents' lives, and I was like, this wasn't right, man, this wasn't right. And I used to talk about it, but I wouldn't allow the feeling. Does it make sense? I could talk about it from my head,
Absolutely.
and
I
I
mean,
would unravel.
I think that's what happens, even if it's not to the extent of abuse or discomfort, but that's what people, that's what can happen, is that everything becomes mentally processed rather than energetically processed or feeling processed, because
Yes,
it didn't, because you disassociate or disconnected. I mean, like I think this is the big challenge, going back to the grief you're talking about as well, is coming back into contact with the body. That's what's so great about the cold water therapy, and is relearning how to be with uncomfortable sensations and to breathe into it rather than disassociate from it, or go into our head and make up a
yes,
story, or go back. That reminds me of that past memory, and so we're not present
yes,
over there, or fearful of some future prediction that we're making in our mind as well, our imagination.
yes,
So that's what I love about the Wim Hof and the breathing and the cold water therapy, and yeah, and because the background of yoga, you would have got in hatha as well, or especially that's what I love about, like, even like yoga and hip openers and stuff like that, because they often say in yoga, it's like the things that you don't want to do, that's the thing you need to focus on. The stuff that comes easy for you, whether it's like you could be flexible in certain ways, but because it could be something could be the strength, that you're avoiding,
yes,
or the hip
yes,
openers, then that's where you need to go to open up, and to and to get familiar with uncomfortability. To me, that's what it is. It's opening our capacity to be with a wider range of sensations. So rather than have a reactivity that sends us out of the body, because I dissociated a lot as well in my childhood. So so much of my life, it's all about embodiment. How do I stay
yes,
in this body and ground and
yes,
keep running the energy and keep expanding and keep trusting and keep allowing, and presence, to allow more of that fuller and fuller and fuller presence to be here, and that has the capacity to hold all those parts of self that have been through whatever those experiences have, at you could say at a denser frequency, right? Or with less information, less understanding, and has the capacity to hold it all. Yeah. So that's why the practices and the tools and the breath, and whatever we're doing on a daily level, is so important to how we can allow
yes.
allow the unraveling, allow for so much to move through us, because as you said, our bodies, these are just incredible, magnificent, just incredible opportunities that our spirit gets to have this experience of being a human. Wow.
I know, right? And you said something which is just so profound, because, and this is, you talk about the strength, but for me, the vulnerability is where the strength lies. So when we tap into that and allow that expression, so I just talk about a lot of the times, contraction and expansion. We add the words to, so when we're in that survival mode, the body's trying to find a different way of being, and yet we're in a contracted form. And when we allow the expression of the release, however that is, through yoga laughter, through yoga, through ice water plunging, it creates a different way of being, and that's where we find the expansion. So we label it, and I find sometimes that our English language can really limit us. But when we're in a contracted space, so I'll give the example of my sexual abuse. I was contracted for a long time, and my bladder and my vagina, I had massive amounts of bladder infections because I was angry. I was angry at men. Take another level of that. My dad had affairs when we were young kids, And my mom was angry. I mean, my mom remembers a memory, and she spoke about this very proudly, where I was on her hip as a baby, and she was trying to cock a rifle because my dad was he used to shoot at the shooting range, and she was trying to cock his gun to shoot him. So could you imagine this little baby, me being on the hip and trying to figure out, and my mom, like, that's the level of anger that I'm still working through.
So
But
it's a very harsh energy.
100%, but it was just, it's the contraction of, like, even when I'm, sort of expressing the story, I'm like, shit, geez, what? You see, there's no words. It's just that, okay, Michelle, you've just got to release. You've got to release. But when we're talking unconsciously, which is very much where I can still go into, and I laugh because I've learned to laugh at myself through this crazy story of life that I've
You
been
need
in.
a good sense of humor. For this movie.
Oh my God, proper, where you kind of sit and you're like, ha ha ha, okay, that was funny, but that wasn't so funny, that one, or that time. But it's just come to mind is like American Pie at band camp, one time. You remember this? Did you ever watch American Pie?
Yeah, once.
Where she talked about at band camp or something like that. Like, okay, at band camp, this happened and that happened. But it really is just finding the space of coming back, because I know when I disassociate, I'm very clueless when I disassociate, and that used to be a big part of my non-understanding, where I just wanted to purge. I wanted to share my sexual abuse with everybody and dump, and people didn't know what to do with it. And I'm talking about young guys, where they were like, I don't know what to do with this. And I'm like, I just want somebody to listen, because I hadn't told my parents until I was 33 years old. And it landed really flatly with my dad. He's like, are you sure you weren't just fiddled with? And I'm like, no, Dad, that's not what happened. And I very callously made a joke about what I was good at sexually. And you could see my mom's eyes just went like saucers. And then I thought, okay, there's my sick sense of humor. But that's what we do. We try and navigate all the time. I try to navigate making this lighthearted, not realizing that at the age of 33, this was massive in my life. It was a really big part of my life that was taken away from me. That's how it felt. And it really took a long time. Like, people always say to me, Michelle, when does it end? When does it? And the universe is so clever, Mary Jo. I bring little moments on YouTube, or a book that comes into my space. Have you ever been in a library and somebody just or somebody gives you a book or whatever, you're like, okay, I don't want to really read that right now. Like, I got no freaking understanding what consciousness is. Like, why do I want to read that shit? And then you get another person, have you read this book? And you're like, what? And the universe kind of gently nudges us. And that's been a big thing for me in my journey, is this. Sometimes I feel like I've been face dumped, actually, not gently nudged. Like, Michelle, when are you going to wake up? Okay, I'm not ready yet. No, let's do it again. Let's face dump. Damn it. Okay, let's just create the experience even a little bit bigger than last time. And yes, a sense of
louder.
A little bit louder, just in case you didn't hear the caw, the call that had an echo across the mountains. Did you not see the smoke signals, Michelle? No. So yes, it's a part of, because I used to be very heavy in my energy. And then you meet somebody every now and again that you think you're like enlightened, and you think you've done all this work, and they go, your aura is still very dark. And you go, what? What do you mean? And then that, for me, it might just be a moment that I needed to deep dive. So for me, it's letting go of the judgment of who we are and what we haven't worked through, what we may still have to work through. Who knows? Like, I'm here right now. And that's the continuous reminder that I've had to remind myself, especially when I'm in a different vibration. Like, I can feel the difference in my consciousness because of what I've had to let go of. And I say had to let go of because my body couldn't continue in the way that I was continuing.
And
I
that's
had a
the
little baby girl.
unraveling. That's the grief. So we're tying it all back around again to where
absolutely. And I have been through
letting go, allowing,
the purging, the cycles of purging, my therapy that I've been on, the people that I've brought into my space that have helped me through so much of what the unraveling has been about. My journey has most certainly not been, for me, the easiest, but I am a deep diver because the true essence of our soul knows exactly who we bring in for us at the time that we perhaps are requiring the healing. Maybe we don't think we need the healing, or we don't feel that that person is aligning with us in that moment. But you know, our soul has a knowing, and that's where, for me, I've just let go and gone, okay, I'm ready, bring it. And that's where a lot of times I've had to let go of the judgment of how I work with other human beings. Because, you know, I've had clients leave and go, oh my God, Michelle, I was for 10 days, like I was just completely out of sync. And I say, yay. And they say, no, like that was like what you did to me. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just walked with you on your journey and helped you to bring up what you just didn't want to ever address and suppress. And it's plant medicine. And I'm not saying in plant medicine journeys, it's kind of like a plant medicine deep dive. And I know you and I discussed, you know, we discussed a lot, but, you know, it's like plant medicine just does it. It just goes, and then people are left wide open. So for me, that's where I talk about the deep dive. And it's not judging ourselves, Mary J. It's just like, okay, that happened. And how can we bring ourselves back? How can we just keep bringing ourselves back into this moment of being present? And it takes work. I don't care what anybody says, you know, we haven't gone to this point in our lives. You know, you haven't done yoga. I mean, I watched you sit the other day and I was like, Jesus, this chick's got open hips. I wish I could bring my feet together. And I come from a dancing background. I'm like, I want some of that. But I know that I went to a yoga class last week and I was like, okay, you're not the yoga teacher that you used to be.
Hip openers for you, then, my dear, hip openers.
Exactly.
I started yoga, I used to avoid hip openers, and now I love them. You know, but
yeah.
it's sensations, you know.
Well,
Now I have to really drop into the breath and really trust and really let.
yes.
It's the exact same with the cold water therapy. It's the same principle.
Yes.
To me, it's the
Yes.
same principle. And I love
Yes.
that with yoga, because it's like what you learn in a yoga mat is for life. And, you know, again, I never used to get that initially in the early days. And then you're like, yeah, because it's the breath, it's sensation. And even when I teach yoga, I teach it really on that simple principle of taking people through the journey of breath and sensation, and just focusing into the different sensations. And then that brings us right present. It's very meditative, very grounding, and very blissful. Incredible.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You know, there's a simplicity in that. It doesn't mean, yeah, well, this is the English language and the words, you know, it doesn't mean it's easy, but it can be, you know, the
Yes.
focus. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say to anybody who's watching this, you know, that there's never any right or wrong in the way that we unfold in our journeys. And we bring in what we bring in. We bring the teachers. We're all teachers. We're all students. We're all reflections of one another. And sometimes it's the reflections of the other person, which may be the anger that we don't want to look at. But, you know, we may be carrying the anger in some way. And for me, what we're walking towards in this new earth, in this golden era that we talk about, the new 5D, it's just bringing it in and knowing that we are here to show up in a space of kindness and compassion and love. I say to anybody as best as I can, and I still get pissed off with people. I still get pissed off with myself, with life. I still can be incredibly critical. I say to my husband, you know, if you think you're being hard right now, you've got no idea how this internal voice has been so loud for such a long time. So just stop. And that's been the learning for me, is to just say stop. Like my go-to, and this is a simple, like I love how you describe how you teach your yoga, because my go-to has been a stop sign or my hand, stop. When I hear that, the continuous chatter, stop. And breath is key. Breath is what we came into this world with, you know, and we've forgotten that. And that's what I love. I love how, you mentioned Next Level Soul, and all these different podcasts like yourself have taken the courage to put this together, because so many people are definitely, in my opinion, I don't like the separation of, well, they haven't done their work and they're not awake yet, or they are, it's like, no, our eyes are open, our hearts are sensing, we're here, we're awake, we're ready. Some people's journeys may be to just continue on the journey of life that they're on. Who are we to judge them? And because if we're judging them, we're judging a part of ourselves. And that's sometimes we've just got to sit in the space. So coming back to the grieving, coming back to the vulnerability, sit in it. If you're grieving, play a song. When my mom died, I played a song 10 times in a row and I sobbed. But then I came out of it and I was like, okay, I can now talk differently. I can now think differently. I can now be back within. I can hold space for others. But it's something that I didn't know until somebody said to me, Michelle, you take days to come out of the emotion. And I was pissed off at that person. I was like, what? Do you not realize the amount of work I've done? It didn't matter. He was just being that facilitator to give me a different way of navigating me and navigating my observation of who I am. So I honor anybody and everybody in the space at where they're at. And when we look at life and not the right and the wrong, because again, I feel like this is what we're working towards and walking towards, but at the same time bringing it in, is this new way of being. What does it look like? We talk about the tribes. We talk about, and the Kalahari Bushmen come into my consciousness all the time. If you look at them, they want for nothing. They eat simply. They've got the nourishers, they've got the hunters, they've got the gatherers, and they want very little. And that's what I love, is I believe that we want simple. And it's just that we're trying to reformulate what the simplicity looks like in our lives. So I don't know about you, but we've gone through a purging, like a cleansing out. Like I'm just gifting away my crystals and I'm gifting away books. And I'm like, why have I got these? If they're here, rather give them to somebody who could, that for me is being of service in many different ways. But it's just this cleansing. So you see how, again, the unraveling, we cleanse in many different ways. And it's not right or wrong.
Absolutely. Beautiful, my dear. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so much compassion in your voice. So just wanted to kind of share that little bit of, as you do the inner work, and you've taken on a big project as a soul, sexual abuse, running somebody over, like these are things that nobody wants to consider for anybody else, you know what I mean? And I'm certainly sure that going through them, you don't want anybody else to experience those things. And yet, on some level, I mean, do you recognize yourself as a soul that on some level chose to move through those experiences so that you could have the journey, have the healing, and be able to reach so many people, to dive deep with them in this, the way that you are, so authentically, so raw, so real, so determined, because it's like, I get you.
Thank you.
I'm meeting you in the depth of that despair or that rage or that guilt
Yes.
or that shame or whatever, because you get it, and you can't fake that. You can't read that stuff out of a book.
No. And I used to live in my victimhood for a long time. Like I used to bitch and moan about my life and bitch about other people and just create one drama after the next, to be seen. But I wasn't seeing me. So, I've even had this at a live event that I've spoken at, and it was interesting because my friend was speaking about her spiritual experiences, and I was speaking about my human experiences, and there was this upbeat, like yay, when she was speaking, and I was like, oh my God, look at the energy, it's like amazing. And then here I came and I spoke about my human experience, and quite a few people in the audience unraveled. They just sobbed. and the energy became heavy. And I thought, oh my God, guys, like, seriously, you've wanted me to tell my story? Like, my story is heavy. But there's an activation that happens. And that's what I've realized, is that there is something in the energy of my sharing that helps others to acknowledge their past pain or their past hurt. And I had to stop judging it. So yes, this is a journey. This is a choice that my soul has and is navigating. But I had to stop judging myself, because of every time I would judge myself, I would go into that, oh my God, like, damn it. And then I'd become a victim, and I'd become angry and just go, why is this happening to me? Like, when's this shit gonna stop? But the reality is that there's very, and I say this, and I hope this doesn't sound egotistical, but there's very few moments where I have a client sitting in front of me where I'm not in a space of compassion with them for their story, purely because of what I've come through, and I'm still coming through it. Pardon?
You hold a resonance.
Absolutely. And I say to anybody that, and that's beautiful that you said that, because I don't understand anybody else's journey. You know, I don't understand sexual abuse in any way, true or form. It just doesn't even, like I have a what the fuck moment. Like, seriously, like, who the hell does that to somebody else? But, and you see how unconsciously it's outside of me, but it's like in my head, you know. But when I drop into my heart and my soul, it's like, okay, this wasn't ideal, but it's a coming together. And when I navigate the coming together, I can hold the resonance of the energy for the other person, and giving them permission to express what they've got to express in that moment, with no judgment whatsoever. And sometimes that's the rage, because I've always found with a lot of human beings, and a lot of my clients, that when they hold here, they hold down in their genitalia, and you know, as above, so below. So think of this as, you know, we've got this part of our bodies, then we've got our torso part, and then we've got our legs, and they work mechanically beautifully together when we're walking forward in life, but they actually hold very different parts together. And again, that's the miracle of who we are. So when you talk about somatic and you talk about hip openers, I'm the one who goes, freaking I can't squat. I don't want to freaking squat. It's painful. Damn you, Mary Jo. And you just like, just breathe, while you like sitting there like a bushman. And I'm like, damn it. I want to do you, I want to be like you, but shit, this is hard work. So those are the moments of the resonance, because I notice those moments, and I'm very in the moment of, okay, there's rage, let's bring up the rage. And a lot of people don't like swearing, I know that. And I'm learning to communicate that, listen, sometimes we've got a big FU inside of us, and you've got to bring that up, you've got to purge it, because every cell, once again, is storing something. And, you know, if somebody's coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing,
The difference is making it conscious rather than unconscious.
yes,
You know,
bringing
like
it to the light.
bringing it to
Bringing
the
it to the
light
light,
in a
yes.
safe space, which is a
Yes.
non-judgmental safe space that somebody is welcoming. You know, it's very
Yes.
different than just
Yes.
it being fired at somebody unconsciously or, you know, reactively.
Absolutely. And, you know, even in my sharing of my story, and I think you might have said it to me, like, when we walk together on these journeys, I know how I unraveled in the beginning of podcasts when I first used to do them. And I was like I could feel my arms sweating profusely, and I was just in such fight or flight. And am I going to get this right? Am I going to say this correctly? And I'm not a notes person. I'm not like, okay, just give me a moment. Let me just check if I've, you know,
But I've rehearsed.
I just don't work that way, you know. But again, it's like going to gym, it's coming to yoga. It takes exactly, it takes practice. And that for me is the practice of coming into the light, working with the light, bringing the light in. And then every now and again we're in the human experience, and it feels gritty and it feels ugly and it feels and then we're like, whew, okay, now we can bring in the light again, and then we can walk into our space of attuning.
Beautiful. So with that, bringing in the light and space of attuning, would you like to bring in the Council of Eight?
Yeah, sure. I'm
Message.
just going to have
Is it
some
okay if I
water.
ask a couple of questions?
Of course you can. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I just take a few breaths, and Michelle kind of takes Michelle the personality. Ha ha ha! Thank God for that.
Exactly. We love our personality.
I'm so much love and light. See, but I always chuckle because you know what? Did you hear my tone of even how I said that? That's how I take the piss out of being spiritual as well. Like it's just like we have to find the moment of the joy. We
The
have to
lightness.
find the
That's what
moment.
lightness of being is.
Yeah, and the more we can laugh at ourselves, because the Council of Eight laugh at us a lot, let me tell you. And I had a client the other day, just before I bring them through, she goes, I was so pissed off in the first session with them because they were laughing at me. And she goes, but I've 3 4 sessions later, she goes, okay, I can see why they were laughing at me.
Now she gets
I'm
to
now laughing at myself. So
instead of laughing at herself, laughing with herself.
yes, I
So that
love
was,
that. Yes,
yeah,
you bring it in. Yes, I love that. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Okay, I'll see you on the other side. We welcome you today. We have been waiting for this wonderful connection. And we say to you that we are in observation of your wonderful journey up until this point in time. And as we recognize you, as we recognize you, as we recognize you, as we recognize you, as we recognize you as the soul that you are, we say, welcome into your divine essence of who you are. And we welcome those that are being transparent. And as the transparency is being seen through the veils of the eyes, of the windows of the soul, there is a recognition that happens. And we, as the angelic beings of light that we are, who have once walked the earth planes, we say to you, as we are keeping Michelle's eyes closed right now, that there is a resonance in the sensation of our vibration that comes through. Would you say this is a fair observation?
Yes.
And as you are becoming, as every human is becoming, we say, invite it in. And as you are inviting it in, it is as simple as having the eyes shut or having the eyes open. And when humans have the eyes open, they bring in a different non-understanding. So yes, right at this moment in time, it may sound as if we are not making sense. Yet we say to you that there is an opening, an opening, an opening, and an opening, an opening, an opening, an opening to the all that is being seen with many different antennas by many of you different humans. We hope this makes sense.
So
We
in
know
that,
that you have questions. Please go ahead.
thank you. So in that opening, as we talked a lot about the purge, if can you explain what's the happening with the impact of the solar flares, how when there's more light and energy, can you explain how so much is moving up in us, is rising to the surface to allow more of this opening and expansion and room, embody and becoming. Share a little bit more about all that process, if you like.
We thank you for this wonderful question, and we say to you that as the frequencies are shifting and changing within the dimension of the human existence, we know that there is much happening outside with the solar flares, with the meteoric shifts that are happening, and it is all about vibration, is it not? And as the vibration is shifting there, the vibration is shifting here, and as the vibration is shifting there, the vibration is shifting here, and as the vibration is shifting there, the vibration is shifting here, and we keep it simple in the within, the without, the within, the without, the within, the without. And it is all about how you are all working through many structural upgrades. So as Michelle was connecting into the formation and the light of who we are, it is by no means easy in terms of the vibration of the existence of where we reside. What do we mean by this? So as she was connecting more into the field of who we are and our awareness and our consciousness and our frequency, her body started to quiver. Her body started to find a different way of being. And there were moments of being, think of it as being incredibly high on life. And as you have the incredible high on life, there is a down side to that too, is there not? So it is a navigational process. And as these flares are coming in, there is a squeezing that is happening within what you humans would say this purging. So the squeezing is exactly where the body needs to shift in order to find a different stance of being. Has this answered your question?
So a different vibration, like a more expansive vibrational frequency?
Everything is vibration, Mary Jo.
Releasing the density. So the purge is releasing the density.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as we have said once before, and yet many times, that everything is around contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. And sometimes the contractions are subtle and sometimes the expansions are subtle. Yet sometimes the contractions are intense and other times the expansion is not so intense. So as this is being received, again, we say to you, think of it as the old cars that once had antennas on the outside, as you had to pull the antennas up, did you not? In order to hear a different song, a different bandwidth, and you would tune the music in on the radio. This is exactly how it happens. So which frequency are you on? What are you allowing? What are you not allowing? What are you sitting in? What are you getting rid of? What are you deciding to hold on to? The lighter you are as the human that you are in your emotional body is where the tuning of a different frequency, everything is around contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. And sometimes the contractions are subtle and sometimes the expansions are subtle. Yet sometimes the contractions are intense and other times the expansion is not so intense. So as this is being received, again, we say to you, think of it as the old cars that once had antennas on the outside, as you had to pull the antennas up, did you not? In order to hear a different song, a different bandwidth, and you would tune the music in on the radio. This is exactly how it happens. So which frequency are you on? What are you allowing? What are you not allowing? What are you sitting in? What are you getting rid of? What are you deciding to hold on to? The lighter you are as the human that you are in your emotional body is where the tuning of a different frequency aligns. Simple, is it not? Aligns. Simple, is it not? Yet you humans love to make it complicated.
What is your definition or understanding of divine love?
Are you able to feel it? Do you see how there is a pause in the stillness? And as we opened up Michelle's eyes, there was a nothingness, yet there was a vastness. We are not here to bring more non-understandings. You humans have far too much of that. We are here to bring in the sensation of the vibration of the eternal which is the internal. Divine love, divine source, divine God, whatever your choosing of your words is, it is an openness. And when one is open in their hearts, they allow, they allow, they allow, they allow, they allow, they allow. So we move Michelle's hands, and it is simple. If we are to put her hands against the screen, you are able to feel a subtle vibration. Yet when there is an overcomplication in the mind, the subtleness is not there no longer. So everything is subtle. A plant takes time to grow, does it not? So divine love is as simple as noticing you as we see you in the miracles of who you are. May we say that this space and time and where you're at has brought such a sense of freedom for you. You are magnificent. You are aware of this. Yet here we are reminding you. We hope this answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So the beingness beyond words.
Correct. And if we were to bless you with love, would you love to feel the sensation of the tone of what the divine shares with you?
Please.
So please allow your wonderful breath to bring an expansion of change. We thank you.
Beautiful.
As you are, as you see yourself, there are no complexities. There is only interwoven. And when one is interweaving this wonderful web that you live in, this wonderful playground of joyfulness, of expression, much is being delivered to you on a platter. Are you aware of this?
Yes.
Invite it in.
Yeah.
Invite it in.
Letting go of this.
Correct. Correct.
And
Think of it as when you upgrade your cell phones or you upgrade your computers or you upgrade your technology, you are going through a radical shift. And your upgrade is far, far, far beyond you can even interpret in the words that you use.
Yeah. Feels a beyond.
Correct.
What has been known, for sure. Yeah.
There is far, far, far much more than the human eye, than any telescope is able to expand on. Many of these wonderful planets that are way, 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 way beyond the Milky Way have yet to be discovered. We are from the 15th dimension.
And as from the 15th dimension, how do you do you have a form or energy being or a color or yeah, any pattern, anything that's a I guess, a recognition of a body, or how do you formulate in that dimension?
We are of nothing, yet we are of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we are interconnected into many different planets. We are Palladian, we are Arcturian, we are Mayan, we are Zeus, we are human, we are Princess Diana, we are Nelson Mandela, we are Gandhi, we are Mother Teresa. Hence we have said we walked the earth planes. So we are very aware as to how many of you humans have been in suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So we have no form, yet the human mind is wanting a formation. And if you look at fractals, if you look at colors, they are interchangeable all the time. So if we were to say to you, Mary Jo, we look like this.
On this plane, Michelle's
Correct.
body.
Correct. Yet it does not matter to us. What matters is in the deliverance of the messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So think of it as taking a spanner to a wheel, and there is a tweaking that is happening within the existence of the messages that we are delivering. And sometimes it may be a strong tweak, and other times it may be a subtle tweak. We are of stardust. Does that help you feel better? As we know you love your fairy dust. We know you love your magic.
Absolutely.
So that then gives you a visual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As
Beautiful.
humans love the visual.
Beautiful. Thank you. If there was one message for whoever may listen to this in the future, who will listen to this in the future, timelines and just in general, what would be the one message that you would have if there was something that you could just really have received by the human as just this central theme, one message, what would that be that's most important right now for the human to allow themselves to receive?
Compassion is key. And as you find compassion in your own journeys, you'll be able to see more compassion coming your way. We know that there's massive destruction, D-Day destruction happening on Earth right now. We are not yet to create more fear, as there already is a huge amount of fear within many human beings. So it is obliterating the fear, the fear, the fear. And the more you're able to obliterate, the more there is an inviting in of compassion. Find laughter, dance more, sing more, become the human that exists as if this is your last day on this planet Earth. And when you live in that way, with a great sense of gregariousness, change is becoming. You are a part of the change. Each human is the power. We thank you.
Thank you.
We wish you well on this wondrous journey of magic. And we thank you for this invitation. We love you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Love, love.
Hi.
Hi.
How'd that go?
Good. Beautiful. How are you feeling after that?
I always feel amazing, and I've said to so many people, I wish I had like a little dictaphone for my head to what they bring in. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
So are you're conscious in your conscious channel? Are you conscious in the background? Or are you kind of removed, or you have a memory? You don't have a memory? Or you'd have to go back?
I have certain memories. Like I remember looking or feeling into the microphone and doing the toning. But no, I can see myself on the screen, but I see my shape change, my
Mm.
formation change. Like when I've channeled Sekhmet before, I've actually seen my face become expansive like Sekhmet,
Mm.
lion-like. So yeah, I asked for simple when we first started connecting because I like simplicity. I think there's far too much complexity out there in the world, and I can see everything, but it's just direct. It comes out for the human that's receiving it, and or the humans that are receiving it, and it's like, okay, that was then, this is now. Like that's how I kind of feel. And I love it. But in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing, guys.
Oh,
Like I can hear myself talking to them.
I'll definitely be listening again as I'm going over this, taking it in on another level.
Mm.
So thank you so much. I so appreciate your time and your
Thank you, Mary Jo.
generous sharing, and I love your deep dive, raw realness, and you are a permission slip, for so many to be raw, real, and deep, and
Thank you.
your own so your own podcast or your own YouTube channel is called the Real Talk, is it?
So I've got Keeping It Real, and that's all on my YouTube, which is Michelle Carpenter Medium. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook and just all the normal platforms. And I share their messages every now and again. I get like a little, I could be washing dishes or packing the dishwasher, and I get this little nudge. Okay, Michelle, you got to go now. And I never know what's going to come through. So yeah, I share a lot of their messages and the tonings. That's been an incredible part of the change I've seen for a lot of the clients that I work with. And it was fascinating in Egypt because I know when I'm going through expansion, I feel like this kind of burning in my heart and in my throat, my vocal cords. And it's very different to having like indigestion or reflux. And in Egypt, in the pyramids, my back of my head was opening and my jaw was opening, and the notes that I'm bringing through is like somebody measured them the once, and I don't know what the hertzes are. I'm not too sure, but it's just a beautiful process, and I feel incredibly honored.
Mm.
Most times people say, oh my God, I can feel my cells tingling. We're talking about that light that we want within us, that is in us. We're
Mm.
just all waking up to remember that that light is there. And that's what I love about being the channel for them,
Yeah,
is they keep it
beautiful.
simple and they share beautiful, wholesome messages.
And
Often not what we want to hear, just by the way. A lot of clients like, that wasn't what I wanted to hear. And I'm like, okay.
you don't always get what you want, you get what you need.
Yep, that
Yeah.
is so true, Mary
Sometimes it
Jo.
just takes a little time to realize that.
Yeah.
But just wanted to go back to the sound and the tones and the transmission of energy and frequency through sound and tone and languaging. Um, I call it soul language. People call it light language. But I find, and I think we'll just find it more and more, is that it just bypasses the computer, the mind, and this where the English language can be so tricky because it really can get us in our head of understanding and da 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 da, whereas the sound and the frequency can just bypass that, and then it just comes into a resonance and a knowing, and the tears. I know myself when I do toning and language for myself, tears are just coming down my face. I don't even know. I have no idea why. I have no idea why, but there's a
Mm,
recognition, there's a release, like it's happening on such a quantum level. Bum, 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 bum,
mm,
bum, 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 bum. And yeah, and I'm finding that, I'm leaning into this, what I call my soul language, because it's like it just anchors it in my body, my cells. It's communicating to my cells in a language my cells understands, that my mind doesn't necessarily understand, but my body gets it, and I can feel the confidence. I can feel how things are coming back into harmony and balance, and like grounded again in my body. It's quite phenomenal. And again, this is where it goes beyond the human linear brain and intellect and all of this kind of stuff. So frequency is where it's at.
Yes, exactly. And it's just these upgrades, these DNA upgrades that we're all going through, and we're
you
all
how did
energy.
how did you go, like, just even a few days ago? Like, have you felt a big purge kind of this last week? Is it last week, last few days?
Yeah, the I know when there's a purge coming or that I need to get rid of some old shit because my husband and I bicker with each other and some old stories come up.
Yeah, yeah.
And 2 days ago,
Me, a lot of
I um
emotion and achy
I
body and
yeah, like my knuckles were sore, like my joints were really sore. I I was exhausted 2 nights ago. I mean, I fell asleep at like 7:15. I had a big day with clients, but it's unheard of for me. Like he had to, take me to bed, and I just slept. Boom, gone. So yeah, the upgrades are in. Like I just feel a tingling,
I had
and
no appetite. I did a water fast because I just, yeah, I couldn't even eat. And
wow,
I was like slowed right down in terms of
wow,
my energy as well for a couple of days. Definitely one day
wow.
particularly, and then a
I
little.
wish I was like that. I go the opposite way. I just stuff my face.
I'm sure sometimes I do it that way, but this time, no.
No, I promise you, I was like yesterday, Jesus, chocolate, wraps. I was like like as a mouse in the pantry, like, brrr, and I was like, stop it, Michelle, stop it. And I was just like, okay, just keep going, just keep going. I was just loving my food. It was amazing.
Yeah, but sometimes I think it's for the grounding as well. I think it depends because I was purging a lot of tears, a lot of grief, I'm sure, and a lot
Wow.
of releasing. So it just felt like I needed to be really steady with what I needed to be with.
But that's beautiful because you clearly learn to listen to your body, or you know what your body's showing you, and that is the sometimes I don't know what's going on energetically. It's not the misconception has been like, oh, I'm always tuned in, and I'm not. I mean, I've been labeled by somebody in Queenstown once. I mean, she was just mean, and she sent me this message like, oh, but you're always tuned in, you should know what's going on. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not always tuned in. I don't understand astrology. I'm still having the human experience. And so sometimes, yes, I'm going through these things, and then somebody will send me a message. Oh, Michelle, by the way, it's the full moon or the new moon energy, and this and this and this and this and this is happening. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's how I rock and roll in my world, is just say, okay, spirit, bring in some information. And there's certain people that I listen to on YouTube, and that kind of just helps me. But grounding is key, that I have found, especially on my journey. It's very easy for me to, and it's a world that I do wish I could just continuously live in, is just being in that space of presence. But I co-create, I'm with, clients, I'm with my family and my animals. And so sometimes it's just finding that space of, okay, I just bring yourself back, Michelle, bring yourself back. So I go and I listen to the birds, or I look at the trees, and I just tune into the vibration of that energy, and big breaths, big breaths. That's been my go-to. That's helped me. And going into the ocean has grounded me hugely.
Mm. And
Yeah.
just before I let you go, I'd just like you to share a little bit about your Castle Hill upcoming retreat.
Oh, thank you for that. Yes. So thanks, Mirja. I forgot about that. We have a beautiful activation, a weekend of activation that's coming up in Castle Hill, which is just outside Christchurch, on the weekend of the 22nd to the 24th of March. We have a organic food, a beautiful Canadian French chef that's cooking. She does a lot of Ayurvedic food, which is amazing. Um, and it's again just the calling. If any of you feel the calling, that you feel like you want to just, there's just something. If the stones are calling, you'll feel it. You'll just feel the resonance of the calling. And there's I think we've got about 15 spaces left, single bedrooms, or single sleeping. And we have people coming from Australia. It's just this. Have you ever been to Castle Hill? I think we have. Hey, you said you have.
Yeah, yeah,
Man alive. And
yeah,
what
yeah.
I've received in Castle Hill has been incredible. So I'm really looking forward to going there. And remember, an activation is different for every single human being. But if you are keen and you feel the calling, please reach out and just email me, Michelle at michellecarpenter.co.nz, and we'll connect. And it's I can just feel the energy. Like I feel like every time I talk of Castle Hill, I get this, like this, whoo, it's
For
like feels
anybody
like
who
this.
doesn't know, what is Castle Hill? What's what do you recognize Castle Hill as? So it's how long from Christchurch on the South Island of New Zealand? It's a few hours drive,
It's
is it?
inwards. It's about 90 minutes from Christchurch, and it's inland, and it's very close to Arthur's Pass, and it's these
Huge
massive
rock.
big giants, massive big rocks and boulders. And they have ley lines, and they activate, and they're very connected. The ley lines very connected to Egypt, and there's just a whole bunch of beautiful energy, and a lot of the rocks have faces on them and imprints. I mean, there's one or two rocks that we've seen that they look like they've got like a thumbprint that's in the rock, and rock holds vibration. And everybody will receive a different message, you know, and again, not one is right and wrong, but they are these massive, massive big boulders. And I believe, I don't know a lot about the background story of how they landed, but they are just energetically incredible. Just think of it as, for those of you who've been to Egypt, it's a different formation of Egyptian energy, and they hold something that is incredible, and we're able to sense and see and feel. And I believe that there's a connection to Orion's belt or something like that. So I'm still learning. But again, if you feel the calling, if it's like, oh, Castle Hill, like, oh, what does that feel like? Know that that's like a little tingling that your soul's going, okay, it's your time. And we have beautiful human beings that are coming together. So we're looking forward to it. And I'll be channeling the Council of Eight. There'll be yoga. And Jill will be doing a group hypnosis regression and meditation. And again, we just show up in the present moment as to what is presented. So yeah, thank you for that remembering.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So
Thank you,
appreciate
Mary
you.
Jo.
Love being with you today. Thank you for all your
Yeah.
sharing and caring and just being you. Like
Oh,
soul.
my pleasure, my absolute pleasure and honor. And thank you for inviting me. And I just love you so, so much. And I'm glad we were able to touch and laugh in the present and eat. I'm glad one of your love languages to eat. Because often I have this assumption of people, I'm like, oh my God, do they eat? They're so little, like, you know, like they practice all these things. And I'm like, Jesus, just please, just let me eat.
Absolutely. You know, being human, like I think that's one of the things I'm just falling more and more in love actually with being human. I'm not saying it's always easy and the purging,
Yeah,
but you know, just being in nature, like as more of my soul is online, I just feel like such a gratitude for this
yeah.
human nature and that we get to eat.
I know, right?
It's the yumminess and oh my God, and have beautiful
I,
experiences, and you know, it's the simple things just are so meaningful. They're just so beautiful.
yes. And you know, just speaking on eating, like we don't have to eat a lot. That's what I've come to discover about my body. So even when I'm a mouse in the pantry, I eat bits of seeds or nuts or something, like I'm like, oh, and that's been a big learning for me based on the way I was conditioned. You know, we had to have, like, a South African, we had like 3 vegetables, rice, potatoes, and meat. And that was almost every night. And I've learned, as I've become lighter in my body, we don't need a lot to keep us going.
No.
But yes, I do love food.
I find that maybe I may only have one main meal or maybe two, depends. Any more than that is just too much for me. And then it's
Yeah,
just picking and stuff like that. So I think just adapting. And again,
yeah,
that's the power of going back to embracing our grief. We'll go back to right to the beginning and become more familiar with our feeling so that we can actually listen and learn that language, because it is a language. And then it's just
yes,
being attentive and to listen and to not go to, you know, as you said, like, you know, I kind of earlier, like go into the mind of oh, this isn't right, or I should be more hungry, or I should be less hungry. You know, it's like just adapting that. One day we may have quite an appetite. We need to be in munching because that's what our body needs on that day. But then another day, like me, it's like, oh, my body doesn't. I don't have any appetite. I just want
yes,
liquids. You know.
yes,
Um, and usually I'd have a good appetite, you know, and it's like staying out of that judgment.
yeah.
That we can be more adaptive, we can be more receptive.
I
And
love that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like a plug point, putting it in and pulling it out, you know, putting it in and putting it out. And sometimes there's input and sometimes there's output, in whichever way that shows up.
Thank you, my friend. Have a
You're
beautiful
so
day.
welcome. I love you very, very much. And I'm so grateful for this experience. Thank you for all you do for the world. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your blogs, your posts. You are so wholesome in so many ways. And I'm so excited for this journey that you